is not looking too good for these games. What's up, everybody? I'm Ricky with WatchMojo, and today we'll be looking at the worst games of 2019 so far.
So welcome aboard.
Thanks.
For this list, we're looking at games that we feel really dropped the ball in the first half of 2019. Now, these games are from all genres, platforms, and developers, so no one is left out.
Oh, that's my cue!
Number 10, Bannerman.
Yeah.
In itself, there's nothing wrong with relying upon a time-honored design template as the framework for your own unique work. But there comes a point where inspiration becomes shameless and sloppy copying. Bannerman sadly falls into the latter category, a real-time strategy title unable to break free from unflattering comparisons to other, better genre works. Its medieval setting is at once overly dreary and not especially memorable, its campaign suffers from repetitive mission objectives, and AI pathing proved a most troublesome hurdle for players. Coupled with some explicitly bug-laden mission design, it's unsurprising that Bannerman didn't precisely go over well with folks.
Yes.
Number 9, Spike Volleyball. When it comes to sports sims, a degree of technical competence and an emphasis on accessible design are important for success. So it's a bit disappointing that both appear to have been neglected in the creation of Spike Volleyball, described by critics as a frustrating and unpolished work. Central to the game's failings is an overwhelming sense of cheapness baked into every facet, like shoddy player animations, simplistic textures, and ugly environments. Of course, actually playing the game isn't much better. Many have spoken of inconsistent control inputs and useless teammate AI bogging down matches. Number 8, Dollhouse. It's entirely possible that most of the wider gaming community weren't even aware of the release of this indie horror title, never mind taking the time to play it. Nevertheless, Dollhouse warrants mention by virtue of how deeply flawed and troublesome it proved to be. For starters, moment-to-moment play in Dollhouse is split between dull puzzle segments and obnoxious death traps to evade, made worse by severe glitches impeding progress. The game's presentation doesn't exactly help matters. A lack of basic effects like fog undercut the efforts to build tension, while the monochromatic color scheme obfuscates important details more often than not.
This memory is currently being extracted.
Number 7, Fimble. Developer Zaxxas evidently had a clear vision of what they wanted their latest work Fimble to be, given its deliberate blend of Norse legends and cosmic-inspired cutscene design. That makes it unfortunate that the game as a whole didn't precisely take with players, who were underwhelmed at best and mildly infuriated at worst. The game's hack-and-slash combat proved to be the most problematic aspect, at once lax in its difficulty and limited in its options for experimentation. Fimble also struggles with balancing the needs of gameplay and narrative, awkwardly breaking up combat segments with its plot-heavy scenes. Number 6, Crackdown 3. Nine years after the release of the previous installment, Crackdown 3 showed up with the promise of an energetic open-world cityscape bolstered by personalities like Terry Crews. Yet, anyone who spent time with the game soon discovered exactly how far from the truth that promise ended up being. Crackdown 3 opts to recycle the freeform besting of distinctly themed gangs from games prior and ties the player's improvement of skills to repetitive busywork. Worse still, the marketing significantly overstated Cruz's involvement in the plot and overall experience. He's at best a playable extra with hardly any meaningful screen presence. Rarely has a sandbox game of this scale turned out to be so lifeless and unremarkable. Number 5. Dangerous driving. There's an inherent risk in the act of evoking and chasing after the legacy of beloved works. Success means recapturing the spirit of that long-ago project, but failure could do considerable damage to its reputation. In the case of Dangerous Driving, its creators, Three Fields Entertainment, wanted to revive and revitalize the specific rhythms of play that made their earlier Burnout games so delightful. What a shame then that the final game strips away the charm and recognizable elements of Burnout and replaces them with an uninspired selection of race types along largely interchangeable courses. And that's before getting into the pervasive slowdowns, game crashes, and severe inconsistency in race difficulty. Number 4. Anthem. Yeah, we all knew it was coming. Anthem represents a coming home to roost not only for decisions and policies enacted by publisher Electronic Arts, but also certain in-house issues plaguing BioWare. Born of a lengthy crunch cycle and alleged mismanagement, this cooperative sci-fi shooter turned out bafflingly dull, shallow, and devoid of technical polish. Many an aspect of the production came under fire: the bare-bones storyline, the mundane rhythm of firefights, the lack of endgame content. Post-launch, the game hasn't fared much better. BioWare has repeatedly failed to meet its already lackluster roadmap deadlines, and at the time of writing, that roadmap has since been deleted. The game is supposed to have a 10-year plan. It'll be lucky to hit its first anniversary at this rate.
And it's making creatures. Get rid of them. Fix that relic. I will.
Number 3. Generation Zero. What a rock-solid premise to immediately waste on a second-rate survival game. Set in an alternate version of Sweden during the 1980s, Generation Zero asks the player to venture across a robot-conquered string of darkened fields and abandoned villages in order to prevail. Despite the impressive opening pitch, the majority of one's time with Generation Zero is an exercise in enduring the lazily designed and monotonous missions. There are also issues of unfair item distribution, boring combat, and the possibility of the game just straight up crashing. Saying that this game is far from a safe recommendation would be an understatement. Number 2. Eternity: The Last Unicorn. If you're going to borrow a sample from design cues of yesteryear, you had best have the development chops, or even just the budget, to back up such a backwards-looking approach. Eternity: The Last Unicorn seemingly sought to combine influences from the likes of late 90s, mid-2000s 3D role-playing games and earlier action platformers into a cohesive whole. Admirable as the effort may have been on paper, the execution on such a plan is what matters most. And boy, did things not pan out here. Stiff and unbalanced fights, tedious backtracking, formulaic fantasy adventure story beats, aggravating camera placement, virtually no aspect of The Last Unicorn holds up under scrutiny. Not quite at the end yet. Almost there though. Just be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Alright, back to business. Number 1. Left Alive. A spin-off of the Front Mission franchise, Left Alive had one hell of an intriguing hook in its focus on lone soldiers conducting on-foot operations among the devastation wreaked by the Wanzermechs. But alas, this strong setup and creative input from game industry veterans, such as Kingdom Hearts co-creator Shinji Hashimoto, was not enough to prevent the final product from being a crushing disappointment.
Don't make this harder than it has to be. Novoslava is finished no matter what you do.
Its stealth-focused gameplay lacks certain useful features and is hampered by AI enemies who oscillate between incredible ignorance and annoying hypercompetence. Its controls impede play in their awkwardness, its overriding aesthetic a washed-out blur of muted colors. Left Alive failed to stimulate on multiple levels, instead finding itself resigned to oblivion.
Break time, rookie. Maybe we'll get to play again sometime, if you live that long.
So many letdowns, and we're not even at the end of the year yet, which means there's more terrible games to come. Alright guys, as always, thank you for stopping by and checking out the video. Please, check out this video here on Mojo Plays for more gaming goodness, and if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe.